The Ghent Altarpiece. If it could talk, it would have quite the story to tell.
It was about the most violated, destroyed, and stolen work of art in history. Since 1432, 13 times it has been, something has happened to it.
That, plus all the tiny symbols and secrets hidden in this 12-panel masterpiece, had the thriller writer's brain going ever since he visited it almost a decade ago.
I've been wanting to use the altarpiece in a novel for a long time, and I couldn't figure it out.
As it turns out, Steve Barry just needed a different investigator to take on the altarpiece's secrets. In many of his past New York Times bestsellers, readers followed retired operative Cotton Malone on dangerous missions. But in The Omega Factor, it's newcomer Nicholas Lee who travels to Belgium and stumbles onto a historic and shocking mystery involving the altarpiece, an order of nuns, and the Catholic Church. And just when you think the secrets in the book's plot are too crazy to be true,
all of the things that eventually becomes the treasure hunt out of that is real.
Right.
All of it's real.
We talk with Steve Barry about his new protagonist, Nick Lee, how he came to be, his name, and other characters in the book.
I tend to like to name characters after people. I tell them all the time, it's not you. It doesn't look like you, talk like you, or act like you. It's just your name. There's a couple of exceptions to that.
Plus, Steve's wife, Elizabeth, is the first one to read his books. She has a unique incentive to catch errors.
She reads it. If she finds something, and I don't mean a typo, I mean a plot flaw.
A big
flaw. It's got to be big. We call it shoe or purse worthy. You know, it's got to be big.
Nice shoes.
Yeah. Oh no,
nice
they're not coming from Target.
Yes.
Which is nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Right.
But they're not coming from there.
We'll find out if Elizabeth is sporting a nice new purse or pair of shoes after checking over the Omega Factor. And Steve talks about the type of scenes that are so difficult to write, he gave up on them after his first novel.
And I recognized very quickly that I'm not very good at writing it. It's hard. I mean, people think it's easy. It's not.
Next, in this entertaining conversation with the trial lawyer,
it took me 6 years to quit writing like a lawyer. I broke myself of it.
Turned international bestseller.
We're so happy to have you back in St. Louis.
Good to be back here.
So tell me, you've changed publishers, and because of that, kind of flipped things around for you. You were all set for Cotton Malone, and he's on vacation, and Nick Lee came in.
Yeah, I'd written the Cotton Malone book that was finished. It was ready, done, ready to turn it in. And then I got an opportunity just to move to another house. And it wasn't something I planned on. It just something kind of happened.
Yeah.
And when I did, they had an idea. Let's don't start with Cotton. Let's start with something different. Same but different. Let's put it that way. So they wanted action, history, secrets, conspiracies, which is the same,
okay.
But they wanted a new character. And luckily, in my brain, I had him. He's been up here for about 10 years, this guy. He works with the United Nations, with UNESCO, at a division called CLIO, which is the Muse of History, you know, CLIO, Cultural Liaison Investigative Office. And he's the boots on the ground that goes around and saves and preserves cultural treasures for UNESCO. So we get the same kind of feel from the Cotton book, but it's a different guy, different motivations, different background, different everything. And so the Cotton book got bumped. Now, he'll be back next year. He'll get back next year. But Cotton took this summer off, and Nick Lee got born. And the Omega Factor came out of it. And I had to write it kind of quickly. I did it, the whole thing, in about 10 months, which for me is a little fast. Usually takes about 14 to 16 months to do it, sometimes 18. But luckily, he was already here.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of it already up there.
He was there, but he needed some...
He needed a lot of refining, yeah. He was kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Because I didn't give him a lot of thought. And my wife, Elizabeth, we were there and we made this decision. And I looked at her and I said, I don't know. I mean, you know, we got to figure out what to do with this guy, what it is. So we had moved into a new home and we have a hot tub. We've never had a hot tub before. It's just something we've never owned. and it was new. It was like we'd been there only a short while. And one night we were in that hot tub, and Nick was born, after about hour and a half in the hot tub. And we went back and forth and created the personality of the character. And pretty much, about 90% was created that night. And then I added some more as we were writing.
So you had to run in and
Well, yeah,
can't have a notebook out there.
I told her, you got to go in quick and write that down. You got to type all that down fast, hurry. Because I'm never going to remember it. She has a much better memory than I do. But luckily she went in, she got it all down.
I mean, you had to come up with this whole backstory,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Well, his family, and he has family. Cotton really doesn't. And his parents are alive, where Cotton only has his mother, and the parents are relevant to Nick. I made a mistake with Cotton. I didn't give him any family. So, he's by himself.
Yeah.
So I can't really explore much with him because there's nothing there. Nick has brothers and sisters. And so there's a much bigger. He's younger than Cotton, but older than Luke Daniels, who's the other character in the Cotton series. So he's a mixture of those two people.
Yeah.
Where Cotton has my personality, because that's where I gave him, Nick is completely fabricated with a merger of all of that.
Okay.
So it was fun the trick with the series is everything you do has to be the same but different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Right.
tall order.
Well, and I read somewhere that this plot fit for Nick, but it wouldn't fit for Cotton.
Probably wouldn't have worked with Cotton. No.
How so? Why do you say
Because
that?
of what he's doing. Unfortunately, Elizabeth has another impact on things. She demands that Cotton be monogamous. And I never planned on Cotton to be monogamous at all. I wanted him, and that's only from the standpoint of it's more fun for me because I can bring in a female character each time and have different things going on. But here we have Cassiopeia. That's his love interest, and that's basically based on her.
And Elizabeth
She
says,
will not allow.
don't mess with that.
I broke them up in a book.
Yeah.
And she got really mad because I didn't tell her I had broke them up in the book. And she that was back when you had real manuscripts. You didn't do it electronically. And she brought that thing in. She slammed it down on the desk. And she says, that is not happening. That's not happening. But I waited a couple of books before I put them back together. And I will say it's more fun with them together. I've started it. That started a couple of books ago, and now they work together. They're not each other's throats anymore.
Yeah.
And they've learned to adapt to each other. And it is.
Well, and in the last book, they kind of made a relationship jump a little bit at the end.
A little bit.
We don't want to spoil it for
No,
anybody
I
if
don't
they
wanna-
haven't
no,
read.
no, yeah, I always say I want a lot of sexual tension between the two of them. And I think that works very well. And I want to keep that going. It was always like the great thing on I Dream of Jeannie. Remember the show? It was a great show until they got married.
Right.
And then there was no show. Jag did a wonderful job of that with Harm, and they kept the sexual tension between Mac and Harm to the last scene. They kept it all the way to the very last scene, and then didn't even break it, and it worked very well.
So you're telling me wedding bells are not coming up soon for
I don't
Cassiopeia
think I think it would take away from the story, to be honest with you. I think it's more fun the way it is right now, and time doesn't pass in the Cotton series. I stopped aging Cotton about 8 or 10 books ago. Yeah,
Good for him.
Yeah, there's no. Because if I didn't, he'd be like 70 years old now, So I learned that from Clive Cussler. He told me that once. He said, I just stopped aging Dirk Pitt. And then one day, Dirk had these grown adult children, wherever they came from. I have no idea. They just appeared one day. There they are.
Don't ask questions.
No,
as a
and
reader.
it works very well. And I keep it that way. I don't have any. The first few Cotton books, there was a time lapse, and you could tell it was progressing. And then I realized I had to stop.
Let's talk more about Nick, his name, Nick Lee. Where does that, because we know Cotton we've talked about before where his name came from, but where does Nick Lee come
We
from?
were building a house while I was writing that book, and the contractor, his son is in charge of everything. He runs everything. He's just magnificent what he does. And I couldn't use his last name because I used that name in next year's book with his father.
Okay.
But he told me, I said, Nick, his name's Nick, and we always just call him Nick. Nobody ever calls him anything but Nick. And I said, what's your middle name? And he said, Lee. And it just hit me. I went, it's perfect. I mean, that's just absolutely perfect. So Nick Lee is the guy who actually built the house. And then his love interest here, sister Kelsey Deal, works for our interior designer. And the rest of the interior design staff is in next year's book.
Okay.
In next year's book. And so she got front and center here in this book.
Yeah.
So we have, I tend to like to name characters after people.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them all the time, it's not you. It doesn't look like you, talk like you, or act like you. It's just your name. There's a couple of exceptions to that. Danny Daniels, the president, is actually Danny Daniels.
Who is?
He was the fire chief in our county where we lived for years, and so I made him president of the United States, and he loved it. Now he's not anymore; he's a senator now, but he loved it.
These are in the Cotton Malone books.
And then next year's book, Derek Coker, who's the builder of our house, that's pretty much him. Yeah,
That's pretty much.
Yeah, he's pretty much him.
Now there's another character in this book, Sister Claire.
Sister Claire is a real nun. She lives in southern France at St. Martin's Abbey up in the Pyrenees Mountains. We went there. I've been there twice. She took us around. Yeah. And Sister Claire is very tough. Shh. That's what she does all the time. Shh. Because you're not allowed to speak, Shh. But I had to ask questions. And she'd look at me. She'd say, shh. And then she'd do this, and we'd go outside, and then she'd answer my questions and all. But she was very interesting. She taught me a lot. I learned a lot from her. And so I told her I was going to name a character after her. So I need to get a book to her, but that's hard to do. I'm not even sure how you get one to her.
Right. That may be a delivery you have to make
I'd have
someday.
to go back and go up there. Now, you either have to walk up. It's a twisty road up, or you take these Jeeps up, and they drive you up. And I will tell you now, that's one of the most perilous drives you've ever done in your life. These guys are really good at it. There are no guardrails. I mean, it's just wide enough for the tires, and you're looking out the window, and it's straight down.
Oh my gosh!
But they know what they're doing, so it's really an amazing place.
You're known for going and really delving into an area, and that becomes a character almost in your book.
Yes.
So you'd already done this research.
I'd already done all that. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness we'd been there, and I was able to incorporate. We'd also gone to Ghent. And we had seen the altarpiece. And when I saw it, I realized there's a novel here.
There's so many things that have happened to it. There's a lot of mysteries behind it, right?
It's the most stolen, violated, and attacked work of art in history. Since 1432, 13 times something has happened to it. The most recent was in 1934 when they stole one of the panels, and it's still gone to this day. Why? Nobody knows. Nobody knows why that panel. Nobody knows what happened to it. But I deal with all that in the novel. All that's going to be kind of explained in my way in the novel. But the painting, Jan van Eyck was a miniaturist. He could paint very small. And most of the detail, I don't know how he did it, because you can't see it unless you're in ultra high resolution. And how he did that, I have no idea.
It's incredible to look at. Like, there's even some words that are flipped and upside down, right?
It's amazing what he's done in there, all this stuff. And there's so many symbolisms and secrets in the thing. What do they mean? I don't know. Nobody knows, to be honest with you. That's perfect for me, because now I can do what I want with it. And I created my own little secret that is real. I based it on, I didn't make up anything. I didn't add anything to the painting. I used exactly what was in the painting to create my own little secret. But here's the thing now. This doesn't give anything away in the novel. They've been restoring the panels, and they're done now. But the center panel was in restoration a couple of years ago when I was writing the book. And there's a website you go to called Closer to Van Eyck, and it has all the panels on ultra high resolution, and you can see the creases, you can see the dust in the creases of it. That's how far down you can get. Well, I found this house that Van Eyck had painted in the center panel, top left portion, back in the trees. It's very small. You have to be under ultra high resolution to find it. There it is. I said, that's great. And sure enough, it just worked perfect. I said, I'm using it. So I used it. And it's basically the Abbey that's in the book. And again, I'm not giving anything away.
Right.
When they did the restoration on the center panel, they painted over it. It's gone. It's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's really weird.
Why?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
What now? Was it added later and they decided to get rid of it? But it's so small. Why not just leave it? It's not hurting anything. It's just so you can't even see it unless you're under there. So, but it's gone. It's not there anymore, which is fascinating.
I've read that 90% of your books are based on history.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back, you talk about all the things that are real, which is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating because when you're reading it, you think there's no way that could be. And it so many times is accurate.
That's the surprise usually when you read and think something's false and it's not, because I keep it as close to reality as I can. I have to trip it up a little bit because it's a novel and entertaining, but I try to keep that to a minimum. I really do.
So the last time we talked, we talked about Elizabeth and her shoes and purses. Has she gotten any new shoes or purses recently from any books?
Now, in fairness here, I knew there was a mistake in this book. I knew that was there, and I didn't tell her. I didn't say anything because, one, I wanted to see if she'd catch it, and two, I wanted to see if she could fix it because
Oh,
I couldn't fix it. I had tried and tried and tried, and I went, I don't know, I can't.
yeah.
She read it, she caught it.
Of course. Of course.
She couldn't fix it.
Shoot.
So she demanded her purse because she found it, even though I knew it was there.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, she got her purse, but my editor, Wes, my new editor, read it, and he came up with a solution, which was so simple. Both of us went like, how did we not see that? It was just simple. It was very easy to fix, but we had made it too complicated.
Yeah.
And he came up with it. He found the solution.
Can you
I
tell
can't,
us
it'll
it's too
give away
much?
something. It'll give away something, but he said, well, why don't you just do this? And we both went like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And so sometimes you need a fresh eye, and it did fix it, and it made the book a lot better. And the reason why I can't say it, there's another little surprise in the book of a historical character.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those who have read it, that gives a
We can
nest
talk
of a
about
hint
it
that
6 months from now.
Okay.
So once the book has been out for a while, we can
There
do
you
that,
go.
yeah.
it's obvious that you and Elizabeth love history. I mean, you love it so much that you started an organization, right? It's
History
Matters. And it's raised what? How many? Couple
About
million.
2.5 million now. That's where we've done over about 80 projects. Now we haven't done anything in 2021 or 22. We're hoping to get back next year.
What is History Matters?
Oh, well, what happens is there's no money for historic preservation. It doesn't exist anywhere. You got to raise it, and you get it either from corporate or donations or whatever, but you're not going to get it from governments. There's just no money out there. So what we do is community will contact us and say, we've got, they had found this flag, and it's an old flag, and it was the very first city of Houston flag that goes back to the days when it was a republic. That's how old it was. They found this flag, and they needed money to repair it. It was in bad shape. So we went over. We did a luncheon that people paid to come to, and I spoke at. Then we did a writer's workshop where we taught writing for 4 hours that you paid your way in.
Mm-hmm.
All of the money we raised that day went to the project. We don't charge to come. We don't charge expenses or anything. And we raised about $30,000 that afternoon, and that paid for the restoration of the flag. So that's what we do. We do small projects. We don't do giant stuff. We do a lot of small projects.
Why do you do that, Steve?
Well, we first of all, we love it. We like, we love to help those communities. We love learning about that history. It is fascinating to learn about it all. We've done all kinds of things: buildings, documents, books, cemeteries, posters, flags, you name it, we've done it. It's a way to give back. It's also a way to, to help communities and produce, and we do. We've enjoyed it. And as I said, about 80 projects. Hopefully we'll get going again next year.
You write in your book there was a man, Frank Green. So he was someone who really got you interested in. Were you a lawyer when you met him, or?
I was a lawyer writing. I had just started writing in 1990. I wrote my first word. And I met Frank 2 years later. And I thought I knew everything there was to know about writing. I was the world's expert on writing. I did. I knew it all. And Frank very quickly taught me that I didn't know anything. And he was really good about it. He was tough. Frank was tough.
Was he a writer
He
himself?
was
or-
at a point, but he was a better teacher.
Oh,
And he never told you anything. He always asked questions, and he made you go figure it out. So I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. I know the answer. I want you to figure the answer.
right.
And he would ask questions, and he would say, "Go think about it. When you have the answer, come back and see me." And it was about a 5 or 6 year period of that where he just beat it in my head. And I say all the time, there's no such thing as a writing teacher. No one can teach anyone how to write. It's not possible. But there are people that can teach you how to teach yourself how to write. Yes. And he was that for me. And that's what I do when I teach it, because I teach what he taught me.
Mm-hmm.
I basically teach exactly what he taught me. But they get it in 3 hours. It took me 12 years to assimilate and have that. Unfortunately, Frank died last year, and he passed. But he was his voice is always in my head.
Yeah.
It's always there. And I would not have been a published writer if it hadn't been for him. There'd been no way in the world. He taught me how to teach myself how to write. Yes, he did.
You dedicated 2 books to him.
I did.
This book, though, is dedicated to Walt and Roy Disney,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So-
Because they fascinate me. Walt Disney, there would be no Walt Disney without Roy Disney. And it's unfortunate because Walt Disney World really should have been Roy Disney World because he built it. Roy was a very unassuming man. He did not like a lot of attention. He did not like all of that. He liked to be in the background. But he built that. It should have been really Roy Disney World is what it should be. So I wanted to dedicate the book because Walt wouldn't be Walt without Roy, and Roy would have never been Roy without Walt. They were brothers. They fought. They sometimes didn't get along, but they both recognized they needed each other to the very end.
Yeah.
Very end.
So that's why you just were fascinated and thought that.
I like Disney. Disney's a fascinating character. He was an interesting man, very complex man. Not the fairy tale you get. You get a lot of fairy tale, but the real man was a very interesting guy, and Roy too, very very interesting fellow. And so I thought it'd be fitting to give them this book.
There's something that you will not find in your books, and that's obscenities. A lot of obscenities.
Every once in a while, a damn or hell, but that's as far as it goes.
And there's not a lot of explicit. Like there's not sex.
There's no sex.
Yeah. Why have you chosen to leave those out of your books?
Well, the first novel, Amber Room, had sex in it. And I recognized very quickly that I'm not very good at writing it. It's hard. I mean, people think it's easy. It's not, because a sex scene is not about sex. It's about something completely different than that. And I tried to do that. I tried to make that happen, but it's hard. And I recognize that was beyond my skill set. And that book also has bad words in it. It does. It has a lot of bad words in it. And I realized after that, I said, I really don't need them. I really don't need them. And so every once in a while, gosh darn just doesn't work. So you got to have like I said, maybe a damn or a hell, but that's as far as it goes. My books are pretty clean in that respect. There's been a couple of sex innuendos off screen.
Right. You don't see it.
No, you don't even know really if it really happened. You just let your imagination
Right.
one way or the other. But that's all. That's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're not the first author who said that. That a lot of people have told me before. Those are the weirdest, hardest.
Oh, they're
and then
very
they can't
hard.
read them afterward.
Yeah, they're just difficult, and everyone thinks it's so simple. It's not at all. It's very complex, and so I just leave that to the experts. There are people out there who are very, very good at it and know what they're doing.
And the Amber Room, that was your first book, right?
Yes.
So after that was.
No, there's no more after that. I mean, it's really amazing because a lot of people think the Amber Room's their favorite book of mine. It's the only book of mine that has sex and bad words in it. And the character who cusses in that book was fun because he says anything he wants, whatever he wants. But you don't really need it. It's just it's not necessary. So I just leave it out. I don't have anything against it one way or the other. I just don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
20 bestsellers later, it seems Steve Berry's readers agree. And as much as they love his books and Cotton Malone, you'd think we'd get to see Cotton on screen sometime soon. Hollywood has optioned several of Barry's books for TV series and movies, but so far, none have made it to production. With a recent resurgence of the treasure hunt genre in shows and movies like Uncharted, Blood and Treasure, and Lost City, maybe Cotton's time is finally coming. If not, at least we can count on him in an upcoming Steve Barry book.
Yeah, Cotton Malone will be back next year, and then definitely be back in 24, and then we'll see about 25.
Cotton and Nick Lee ever
That'd be
together?
fun. I have not discounted that because they are existing. Because Nick applied for the Magellan Bill and he didn't get it. So I'm telling you that they're in the world together. Yeah. So it'd be kind of fun. Yeah. Kind of it'd be interesting to have Luke and Nick and Cotton all together. That would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? But let's see if they like the Omega Factor first.